the December 8th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient, do our best to be efficient, and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. The chair acknowledges the attendance of our staff members and ever assistance of same Jen, Kevin, Alyssa, Mark, Amy, and Kristen. We are missing one commissioner at the moment. So Pat, you were elevated as a voting member. And I'd like to remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Let's try to refrain from talking over each other. Also, all votes need to be done by roll call. When I call your name, state your name and your vote. And though it may be redundant, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Before we get on the agenda, for anybody watching for 2 particular hearings that are going to be continued. One is Hui 86 Water Street and 279 Wild Harbor Road. Again, those 2 hearings that are on the agenda have been requested to be continued. So if you're looking for those hearings, you may not want to hang around. All right, first up, voting minutes. First date is clarifying older minutes, July 21, 2021. Anybody?
I make a motion to accept the minutes with any minor revisions that may come now.
Second.
All right, we have does anybody have anything they want to add about the minutes? All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. Betsy?
Pelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
I abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. Pat?
Same, I wasn't there.
Wow. Peter?
All shy.
Thank you. Steve?
Aye.
All right, it is kind of unanimous, you know. All right, we have accepted the minutes of 7/21. Next up, minutes for August 4th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to accept with any minor revisions that might come up right now.
Anybody with a
Second,
second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of 8/4. Betsy?
Pelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay, Pat?
Aye, Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of 8/4/2021. Next up, minutes of August 11th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to accept with any minor revisions that might come right now.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of 8/11/2021 as submitted. Betsy?
Pelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Abstain, wasn't there.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of 8/11/2021. Thank you. Next up is a request for a continuance under a determination of applicability. First up, John M. Wagner, 6 Rawson Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove a section of paving, remove yew bushes, install railroad ties, regrade, install a retaining wall, and to install native plantings. Ken, or is this Kevin? I'm sorry, Kevin.
I'll take it, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the applicant's requesting a continuance until January 5th.
Heard at the request of the applicant, I move.
Thank you.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this RDA until January 5th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this RDA until January 5th. Next up is a request for continuance under a notice of intent. Byron Missef and Susan Keller, 72 Pheasant Lane, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to expand and alter an existing licensed fixed pier and ramp. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're continuing this again until, we're recommending a continuance again until January 12th. We did meet with BSC, just so the board knows, this has been on your agenda for a while, but there are some issues on that property that we're trying to resolve before it gets to you. We'd like it to come to the board in a nice, neat package, so we're working with their engineer. And it's just taking time because the survey took time for them to go back out and resurvey everything. So they're asking for a continuance until January 12th.
So moved. Gladfelter,
Heard,
Harris,
second.
second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this notice until January 12th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until January 12th. Thank you. All right, next up are requests for determination of applicability. First one has been continued. Next up, Falmouth Marine and Yachting Center, Inc., 278 Scranton Ave, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove 30 feet of decking and inside section of a 12 by 12 timber from existing bulkhead, to remove and replace 5 Greenheart pilings and to reinstall 12 by 12 foot beam and decking once pilings are driven. Mr. Newton.
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and a -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Heard, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up are continued requests for determination of applicability. First up, Eugene J. Clerkin, 67 Cliffwood Lane, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove dead trees, to prune trees, and to conduct disease preventative injections to maintain health of existing trees. Mr. Newton.
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and a -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Heard, so move.
Harris, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Fellow
Maury,
Hawks Eye.
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
and Steve.
Pat, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up are requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And as a reminder, commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Paula J. Coskren, 2 Pierce Place, lots 2 and 3, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species management and restoration and to establish a vista corridor. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mark Manganello up of LEC to present the project. Mark, is there anybody else I am promoting up from your project team?
Nathan Guskarian from Holmes and McGrath, I believe,
Okay.
is also.
I see.
Thanks.
Okay, promoting Nate up now. He's in.
All right. Mark, we're ready for you.
Okay, I believe there was a plan sent to the office to be displayed, or I can share my screen to show it.
You might have sent the plan, but I wasn't aware you wanted me to show it, Mark, so it'll probably be easier for you to pull it up than it would for me right now.
Okay. Give me just one.
You can't, I can find it real quick. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so again, I'm Mark Manganello with LEC Environmental Consultants representing Paula Coskren. She's the applicant. This is a notice of intent for creation of a view corridor and invasive species management on property referenced as lots 2 and 3 off Pierce Place along the northern shoreline of Salt Pond. This property is owned by Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries, along with several other lots heading to the west from this site. The other lots here also are subject to a vegetation management plan similar to what's being proposed here, that's been in effect for several years, where they have view corridors that were established and are maintained on an annual basis. More recently, the commission approved a very similar view corridor to this, also just down the road on this same property, where the scope of work is virtually identical to what's being proposed here. The scope of work involves clearing invasive species within the view corridor and within an area you can see on this plan between the view corridor and an existing path. It's currently a very dense thicket of bittersweet, honeysuckle, multiflora rose. There are some native plants, primarily viburnum, mixed in, but the idea is to clear the area and revegetate it with low-growing shrubs. Carolina rose is proposed, along with a grass seed mix. We're proposing to prune any of the arrowwoods if that's feasible. If they're too large and sort of defeat the purpose of the view corridor, then we're proposing to transplant them into the area between the corridor and the path. That area would also be cleared as part of this project and revegetated with highbush blueberry and winterberry plantings as labeled on the plan. Between the path and the shoreline of the pond, there's a relatively moderately sloped embankment down to the shoreline of the pond. That area would be pruned down to 5 feet to create the view corridor. Monitoring for this would be rolled into the annual monitoring, which I perform every year and have been performing for, I think, 10 years now. So this monitoring of the activities conducted on this view corridor, if permitted by the commission, would be rolled into a single monitoring report, which I submit on an annual basis to the commission, documenting compliance with the order of conditions. The work would be performed by Hamilton Tree. And Hamilton has been doing the work on the other corridors for several years now. So this, again, would roll into their scope of services for the larger property here. I think that's a general overview. I know there are a few questions in the staff report regarding the square footage. We have calculated that number and can provide that. There was a request for data sheets, which we can certainly provide. And I know that Jennifer has a long-term plan for sort of aligning all of these view corridors in a manner that would allow them to be managed more in a more cohesive manner. So they were all managed together with a similar scope of work. I'm sure she can comment on that, but I'll turn it over to the commission now for any questions.
Thank you. Hey, Mark, you can stop sharing.
Oh,
Please.
sure.
Nate, do you have anything you want to add before we turn it over to staff?
I don't. I think Mark captured it.
Okay. Jen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you, Mark. I do have just a few general questions, but just to give the board an overview, some of you may have remembered permitting the view corridors in some of these parcels. At least I know Betsy, Maury, and Courtney will remember. That was back quite a few years ago. It has been extended quite a few times over the years. I think it is the goal, hoping I'm saying this correctly, that, this is Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuary's property. So the goal is to have Salt Pond have one order of conditions for their whole property that manages these different view corridors. And I think that's what Mark was trying to get to. You just permitted one, I believe, last year or earlier this year, that will expire in 3 years. This will expire in 3 years. And next year you will see a extension request, I'm assuming by you, Mark, for the other view corridors, that we would recommend an extension for 1 additional year. So all of these permits expire at once, and that we can go and then permit one order of conditions, one project, one management plan for all these properties, so that Salt Pond doesn't have 3 or 4 different orders of conditions on their property. Because this is not for Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries. These are for the property owners along Pierce and Pondlet Place. That said, Mark, you answered my question about the arrowwoods. I was wondering where those were going to be transplanted to. So thank you for that. And we just kind of want to get an idea of how many plants you are putting in. Are you proposing 3 feet on center? Are you proposing a number based on the square footage? Do you want to wait and see when you get in there what you can save, what you can't save?
We specified We specified 3 foot on center, so
Okay.
you know,
All right.
that would be the density, and we'll work around whatever natives, you know, are feasible to preserve.
Okay, so as long as that's listed out, that's fine. The square footage doesn't really mean that much to me. Now, if you just, clarified the 3 feet on center, and you can provide, you have the data sheets, or do you have to go back out there?
I'm not sure. I have them for that delineation, but they're not on this exact corridor. You know what I mean? Because we delineated the whole shoreline
Yeah.
some time ago, so I can probably dig those up. But if I need to go back and get them there,
Okay.
I can do that too.
Okay, that's fine. That's all we have, Mr. Chairman. Says, do you know what percentage have you? I know you've been in there. Do you know what percentage of invasives versus natives are in those two different areas? One, the view corridor, and two, the area between the view corridor and the path. The other area is going to be left alone, right? It's just the view corridor and the area between the view corridor and the path.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I really don't. I mean, to say I've been in there, I've been, I don't know, fumbling around the perimeter trying to get in there, but it's
It is thick.
It's ridiculously thick. Yeah, I don't know. A squirrel could get in there, but no humans.
The fishers can get in there.
Yep, that too.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Newton, do you have anything to add?
I don't, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Jen, are we gonna have to wait for the BBW sheets?
Yeah, Mark can provide this to me. Dig out what you have, Mark. I know you've been out there.
Okay.
All right. Betsy,
I have no questions, thanks.
Courtney,
No questions.
Kevin,
No questions, thank you.
Maury.
Jen, I just had one question. I remember a lot of these lots out there having vista corridors. Is this the first time for this notice of intent for these two lots?
What do you mean these two lots?
Lot 2 and 3.
Yes, it is the first
This is
time.
the first time. Okay. The reason I
Correct.
asked that is that they're bringing a mini excavator, and so it sounds like they're pretty much going in a skid steer, clear it completely, and then replant it. Okay, thank you. As long as Salt Pond knows that's what you're doing.
Salt Pond's aware of that, right, Mark?
Oh yeah.
Of the methodology, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Pat,
No questions. Thank you.
Peter,
No questions, thank you.
Steve,
Thank you. Mark, how many other view corridors do you project will be here? We now have 3?
More than that. Let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 6 or 7 now total. So the first exercise, I believe, permitted 5. You recently permitted 1 more, and this would make 7.
Do you anticipate that they'll be continuing until it's essentially a large view corridor with?
No, I don't. Number one, I don't think it's permittable in that manner under your regulations.
I know it isn't.
So, and we went through those who were on the board back in 2009 recall that we went through a lengthy permitting exercise to get to where we are today. So, and I still work for all of these property owners. I don't think they are interested in looking for anything more than they have now. They would like to maintain what they have now going forward. And I don't think the layout of the homes in the subdivision is such that there would be any additional view corridors proposed.
Okay, I don't have any problem with it. It seemed like we were, taking out a large part of the Salt Pond Sanctuary area. But I assume this is even better for the species. Is that the assumption, that it's environmental improvement?
That's right. That's the idea behind each one of the corridors. Actually involves some type of maintenance program that is for the benefit of wildlife.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's it.
Okay. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the chat, no hands raised, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, does anybody have anything else they'd like to add,
I'll make a motion.
please?
Make a motion, close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, give me 1 minute. I'm going to try to put Nate back into the attendees.
I think I'm still in.
Are you you're the next one?
Yeah. Yep.
134?
Yes.
Okay. I'll leave you right there.
All right, great.
Stick around. All right, next up,
Hang on.
David and Mandy Cunin, 134 Sitters Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct and maintain an addition and deck, to establish a vista corridor, to conduct invasive species management and restoration, to replace existing concrete steps, to install dry wells and install mitigation plantings, and for all associated grading and landscaping. All right, Nate, you're up, sir.
Okay, thank you. For the record, Nate Goshkarian with Holmes and McGrath. Mr. Chairman, permission to share my screen, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If I can get the right one. Can you see the plan? Colored exhibit?
We see the staff report.
Oh, okay. Every time. How about now? Okay. All right. So the property we're talking about tonight is 134 Sitters Pond Road. This is a residentially developed parcel of land in Falmouth. It's about 9,800 square feet. The property currently includes a single family house, a detached shed, a crushed shell driveway, and associated landscaping. Wetland resources within 100 feet of the property include Sitters Pond, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage, in this case, AE 13. As we can see, the most restrictive setbacks in this scenario are derived from the top of the coastal bank. And basically, this project that we're proposing tonight has a few structural additions. 4 to be specific. They are a proposed bulkhead on the northeast side of the currently existing dwelling, proposed stairs, an addition to the side of the house right here, as well as a proposed deck. So all these structural additions are located in FWR Buffer Zone B. And as we know, the mitigation plantings required for that are 2 to 1. We got the mitigation calculations over here, which round up to 860 square feet of required mitigation plantings. And we are proposing to plant those closer to the resource area in Buffer Zone A along the top of the coastal bank. The only other part of the project that I'd like to mention is we are proposing to replace these dilapidated stairs down here leading to the water in kind. In terms of structural components of this project, that's all I have. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask if you could roll this over to Maria Hickey, and she will go over the vegetative part of this project.
Okay.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maria Hickey from Maria Hickey and Associates Landscapes. I need to apologize. I'm losing my voice, but I'll try to speak as clearly as I can. The abutting property of Susan and Rusty Warren at 132 Sitters, we did a similar project of invasive land management, native plantings, and mitigation plantings. And at the time, this parcel at 134 was loaded with ivy and bittersweet, as well as a number of other invasive vines and vegetation, which has made it difficult on maintaining at 132 all invasive species in their planting area. So first and foremost, we're requesting permission to do an invasive species land management plan where we will go in and remove the non-native invasive vegetation and replant 3 feet on center with a mix of native shrubs. This mix that we have proposed will spread through runners in the ground, which are wonderful, creating a native thicket for the birds and other associated wildlife. The upper lawn area, we will be planting 3 feet on center with a native mix of shrubs to again provide a higher habitat value than the existing lawn. Staff report had asked us for a head count of the plants, which is very difficult to do in a situation like this because the ivy is covering so much. We don't know if there's rocks, roots, what there is once that ivy comes out. But our density is for 3 feet on center. And I can say with assurance, Jenna, I don't think in 15 years you guys have ever told me I haven't planted enough plants. So I can assure you that the density and coverage will be there. The other question that statement that staff had made was at the sides of the path at the bottom of the hill, there are some beech seedlings, which we were requesting permission to remove because there's no way to maintain the 4-foot width of the path when you have a tree growing, a foot in from the edge of it. It means that I'm going to have to keep cutting all the side branches of the beech tree as it grows. It will never be allowed to grow to its full and mature size because it's grown into the path. So I just wanted to address that one as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You do plant fairly dense. So that's the point of either asking for a plant count or what your density is. So that's fine. Maria, we're going to want, like you have a mix of plants in your narrative. Holmes and McGrath has on their plan, at least 2 of the following. Of course, we don't want to see a sea of Carolina rose out there. So we're going to say you need to have an equal mix of, at least an equal mix of everything out there, of all species listed, because I think that would make kind of nice habitat. We were kind of concerned about the beech trees because we didn't want them pruned within that vista corridor. If it was a vista corridor issue, if it's a path maintenance issue, I have less heartburn over it, but anything that's not going to be interfering with the path, please leave those native trees on the bank.
Correct.
And no black filter fabric like over on the Warrens. So just that note, and you'll see that. And I think that is about it. Just Nate, can you add land underwater bodies to, land underwater body is there. So you got it.
Sure. Yep.
And Jen, the reason I usually list at least 4 species, I handpick every single shrub that we're going to plant. And when we're at the nursery sometimes, I always go for at least 3 of the 4, if not 4. But without fail, there's always something that doesn't look so great or too viable.
It wasn't so much, like I said, it wasn't so much your narrative. It was the note on the Holmes and McGrath plan that says at least 2. So we just didn't want like Carolina rose and, sweet pepper bush, all of the, we want more of a diverse planting.
Sure. Okay. You got it. Thank you so much.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Newton, do you have anything to add?
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Steve, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but I don't have any questions.
All right. Peter?
No questions.
Pat?
Questions, thanks.
Maury?
Only two things. Will you be planting any cool weather native grasses to hold that bank along with the
Yes.
jute mat? Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was the mechanical removal. Obviously, that's a steep bank. Is there a certain area where you're going to have to use hand versus mechanical?
Yes, most of the steep bank is going to be hand. It's just the top third of it. There's some big yew shrubs. There's
Yeah.
no way we can get those out by
Okay.
hand.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Courtney?
No questions.
Betsy?
No questions, thanks.
Wow. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the chat and no hands raised, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Are there any further comments or questions? All right, hearing none. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you so much and happy holidays.
Happy
You as
holidays.
well.
Yeah, it is. Nate, are you still in for another hearing or no?
Later on, I am, yeah.
Okay, Maria, are you done for this evening?
I am done as far as I
Okay,
know.
happy holidays.
Yeah, okay, bye-bye.
All right, next up, Nancy L. and Paul F. Ciotti, 36 T-Ticket Path, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct and maintain an addition and to install mitigation plantings and dry wells. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I believe I am promoting, there he is, Mr. Bunker up to present his project. I
Excellent.
hope it's Tom's project and not Jeff.
Here I am.
Mr.
Thank you.
Bunker, you're up, sir.
I'm up. I'll tell you one, this has nothing to do with the project, but one shortcoming of the Zoom thing is that while you're reading, Jamie, while you're reading the announcement and I'm being called up as a panelist and the audio gets turned off. I actually don't hear what's being in that brief time frame. I don't hear what's going on. But anyway, I'm here. I hear you now.
Do you want me to repeat it?
No, it's just the public announcement. I got it. In case there was anything different. No.
Sorry about that, Tom. I can wait until after the public announcement to promote you up.
No, it's just a comment. I just thought I'd just bring that up because you probably don't realize what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah. That's probably the best thing to do then is announce it and then promote whomever. I mean,
Okay, I can do that.
point taken.
Or
Thank
the
you,
other
Mr.
way,
Bunker.
make sure the panelists are up before you announce. Either way, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd comment on that.
All
I
right.
didn't say anything bad about you, Tom.
Oh, good. I would hope not,
This
but
time.
you never know.
This time.
Yes, for the record, after all of that, for the record, I am Tom Bunker. And whoops, where'd it go? There. I lost you. Tom Bunker, representing Clancy Construction and Nancy and Paul Ciotti on this project at 36 T-Ticket Path. And so I have let me see. Brief overview, if I may share my screen. I haven't done that yet. Let me see. I'm
Yes,
getting
sir.
ahead of myself. Yeah. Okay. Now that might be better. So it's just
There
the
it
town
is.
GIS. So you can see basically where it is, right up at the very north end of Perch Pond, and along the tributary of this sort of in olden days, I imagine that was connected, and I guess it is connected now by a culvert going under T-Ticket Path. So we're in this property here, 36 T-Ticket Path. And the flood zone extends up through this tributary and up T-Ticket Path. Route 28 is just off to the left there. And so you can see the flood zone does come up well onto the property, covers most of the property. And then there is a flood zone shaded X above that. They're on the corner lot between T-Ticket and Norris Path. Our plan is, speaking of Route 28, so see, I'll just point out one thing down here. There's this drain pipe coming down, whenever that was installed, comes down from Route 28 and empties into there, or it did. The town recently did some work, so I don't know if that had anything to do with the drainage. But there is a pipe coming down from Route 28 into it here, and then of course the wetland on the back of the property and a culvert going under T-Ticket Path through here. Flood zone, elevation 10, AE elevation 10 runs through here. The driveway in this lower part of the lot is all in the flood zone, and the lawn fronting T-Ticket Path then around the side of the house is in the flood zone. The flood zone is 10, but the elevation of the house, floor elevation, is 13.7. Garage slab and the driveway is down 5.5. So this is all of this bordering vegetated wetland through here. Wetland, the zone A, buffer zone A, is 50 feet wide, running all along this way, and some marshy vegetation on this side of Perch Pond. I've given that a 100-foot zone A across this part of the lot here. A lot of this lawn area is in has a slope steeper than 10-to-1. So it's a coastal bank, not this very top part of it here, but it's coastal bank around here. And then where the flood zone continues, this is all steeper than 10-to-1 around the backside of the house. So that's all coastal bank. This coastal bank, being adjacent to a wetland resource area, has a 50-foot zone A, which is up through here. This other coastal bank in this location is not adjacent to another resource area, but it is within 100 feet. And that has a 25-foot zone A in this location. So you can see the existing house, and there's some patio in here also. A little hard to tell, but there's some steps, and this diagonal line is the edge of this patio. There was a question on the staff report if the patio is going to remain, so I've colored in here where the patio will remain. And actually this part right here is not patio now, but this will be filled in with patio. All of this has been counted in the mitigation calculations as a new coverage here. This is existing coverage, but then out here is new coverage, partly in zone B, partly in zone A. So we've also drawn on what the DPW wants is the construction access to keep the road pavement clean. The dry wells here, protecting the catch basins from siltation. In that location, I've drawn on the limit of work to protect the oak trees on two sides. I didn't catch, there are two small spruce trees that fairly recently planted, but the limit of work here and here to contain all the work away from the wetland, away from the coastal bank, actually away from the flood zone too. And we have the calculations, mitigation calculations, and we show the mitigation 1,105 square feet through here, including a red maple. It's not a fully planned out planting plan, Alyssa asked where what did she ask? Where some of the plants would be. The high bush blueberry, the arrowwood. And I was intending this would basically be, although I did identify a few things, these are to be planted 3 feet on center, as noted here, and they will include all of these species in addition to the ones that I've called out, because these were some of the ones that Mr. Ciotti requested to put there: the chokeberry, holly, beech plum, and pussy willow, plus some of these others, and they're just not. They'll be the 3 feet on center anyway to get that density that you're requiring. I don't have data sheets. I'll have to get them done. Can't give them to you quickly, and I don't know if you need a continuance for that to get that done. What else? As far as the spruce trees, I'll have to note where a tree was removed and to show the spruce trees. I mean, we will replant whatever's there, but we hadn't caught that in our initial survey, so it must have been done more recently. That is the project. I will stop sharing for now, and I'll take your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Okay.
Ben?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tom, thanks for clarifying the patio area. That was kind of confusing to us. Only reason we asked about the arrowwood and the blueberry was because you had called out the other plants. So we were just kind of wondering what was going on with the others. So thank you for that clarification. I trust you on the BVW data sheets, but going forward, it's something I am going to start requiring. It is a requirement in the regs. The board's been a little lax, but it's very helpful for Alyssa and Kevin when they're looking at a wetland line to have those data sheets, and it is in the regulations. Yes. So we are going to start requiring you guys to provide those to us. And yep, you're going to just take care of that tree. We'll make a special condition about the tree going forward. You don't have to have the BVW sheets in before the close of the hearing. Just get those to me. Mm-hmm. And going forward, we'll be asking for them. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Newton.
I don't have anything at this moment, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Maury.
I just had two. As we all know, Perch Pond's highly degraded, and I see that there's 2 cesspools there. Are you increasing any flow with this addition? What is it?
No.
It's not going to be a bedroom?
No, this is a kitchen expansion, mainly kitchen expansion and mudroom.
Okay, so, and they have no intention of upgrading their cesspools to improve the water quality of Perch Pond. Okay. And the other question I have is the driveway runoff. Do you have any intention of, that just runs straight down across the town road and into Perch Pond? Maybe a box drain or something, or everybody complains about Perch Pond, but that live there, and I'm just trying to improve it when you're doing a project like this.
I
It's just
agree.
simple.
Yeah, I've never didn't talk to the owner about that, so I can't propose that at the moment.
All right. Well, then I don't want to hear him complain about Perch Pond. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Pat.
Did you see?
Yes, Pat.
Oh, sorry about that. No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Peter.
Yes, to answer a couple of Maury's concerns, the driveway actually goes downhill. And if you see the drawing, the base of the garage is only 5.5 feet above sea level. So any runoff would go down to their box drain already. So that's one thing. The other thing is the town has published that the town sewering of this section is scheduled for about 3 years. So that's addressing your concerns. No further comments.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Peter. I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Courtney?
No questions.
Betsy?
No questions. Thanks, Jamie.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No public chat, no hand raised.
Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Second,
Hey, I'm sorry, who's second?
Bird.
Pat and second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing. Are there any other comments or questions? All right. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Pat?
RSI.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you.
Next up are continued hearings under a notice of intent. First one is 72 Pheasant Lane has already been continued. Next up. Stephen H. Ogilvy Jr., 110 Sitters Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a set of wooden steps and landing extending into Sitters Pond to install a ramp to connect an existing swim float to the proposed steps, to address mitigation planting required for construction of egress steps, and to propose, not sure this is right, restoration plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bunker is still with us to present the project.
All right, Tom, before you start, to be clear, the quorum excludes Maury and Steve. Betsy, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct, Jamie.
See, I get it right once in a while. All right. Therefore, Mr. Bunker, you're up.
Okay. Yep, sorry. Yeah, and for the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design, and we're representing Stephen Ogilvy with this application. And if I may, I will put up a drawing and share my screen.
Please.
This hearing, the first hearing about a month ago, maybe it was 5 weeks ago, and there were several questions about it. I don't have the old staff report right with me, but there were questions. One question was about whether these two egress landings, which were built on the pond side of the house, could in any way be approved now, since they were built in 2005 without going through the some work was approved in 2005 by the Conservation Commission, but these two were not shown on the plan. And so I have submitted a document to you, which to the commission, which shows a variety of, probably too much documentation, but it's all what was from your files and the town building department files. But basically showing between 2004 and 2008 is when the clause was in there where reduced buffer work could be performed, which might reduce the buffer to less than required, but no less than 50 feet wide. And so there was I'm not sure if I have that right. Let me pull up one more thing here. Maybe. This is the transmittal. Basically, this is the RDA from that time, the application, and the determination was done in 2005. The plan here, he did not show the means of egress toward the pond. There was an architectural plan that showed a large patio. This patio actually did not make it onto the request for determination. And I think there was, I'd like to think there was no bad intent, but probably a mix up in the consultants at that time. And what in question was there was a door built here on this mudroom and a door built over here. The doors are shown on the plan, but there was no egress shown. And then the determination here to build the addition, an entry porch, construct a fence and mitigation plantings, but doesn't mention a door. I think I should say that on the request, it does mention windows and a door to the outside, a mudroom and a door. So in the original request, it does mention 2 doors going to the outside anyway. So the doors were approved, but the egress did not make it onto the plan. And there was specifically the original patio proposed has been removed from this request. That work not to be done. A lot of what I was going to get to was that the final sign up was done in December of 2006. So those regulations that I mentioned and the occupancy permit, was December 2006. So the regulations allowing a reduced buffer were still in effect in 2006 and up until 2008. And so that permit was closed, you see, in 2000 and, well, it's issued in 2005, but it was closed. But I was going to get to a way at the end plan that I drew here. So this is the 50-foot minimum setback from allowed or required. And so these are the 2 egress steps right here. And let's say the 65 feet from the resource area when it could potentially have been allowed to as close as 50 feet. And of course, this is to show that the lot was created prior to 2008 rather. This was created in 1926. Lot 11, lot 10 right through here. So I think it meets and this is the letter also. A letter was requested because there's going to be a second floor on the garage. And this is the letter saying that structurally, this is from a registered architect, Adam Mooring, structurally the garage foundation is strong enough to support the second floor. And they have ways of shoring up without, there will be no need, it will not be torn down, that it can be constructed as drawn. So based on the foregoing, I think that these egress steps could have been approved. I think the staff report does say that it seems that the egresses, it says should, but I probably should say could have been approved in 2005. They should have been approved if they had been shown on the plan. That's the point of that. The staff asked that I show the stepping stones, and somehow I went right by and didn't see these stepping stones across the front of the house. But I did show the boat rack is right here, and the stones added here, and I got a further staff report said that I hadn't added these stepping stones through here. So I put them on here, and further, the recommendation was that at least this part of the deck be removed, that the egress steps possibly could remain here and here, but no more than the minimum required. Those are more my words, but that this deck along the shower might have to be removed. We'd rather not, but that's the staff report. And this is the existing shower here, which also was built slightly larger than approved, but that actually is not closer to the resource area. The shower is not closer to the resource area than the existing house. So I've added on the detail here, increase the area of decking to be removed, but we would like to be able to put a few stepping stones down there. This area will have to be raised and grade a little bit, 6 inches or so, so that it will only be one step up to the shower. We'd like to put some stepping stones back in, and we can remove these stepping stones that go from door to door, as they are not necessary. I have shown this to be removed, but I haven't quite finished up the plan because removing coverage would affect the mitigation calculations. So the plan is not done, but this is a plan, I think, with the questions addressed. I also showed that this is the area where it's English ivy under the cedar trees right here. And so I planted these a couple of trees. I met Jen out at a different site, and she suggested the bearberry, that's Arctostaphylos uva ursi. But of course, a lot of this area is, well, the entire area is under a cedar tree, and I think that next door they show some more cedar trees planted in this area or on their side of the property line. So it'll be a fairly shady location, I think. So I chose one fern, the Polysticum acrosticoides, only because that's Christmas fern. Thought that would be fitting for this season. It's a evergreen fern, but I think probably a mix of ferns and shade tolerant plants would work here better than the bearberry. But I do have this or other perennials, low growing native perennials approved by conservation. So those are changes made to this plan, and also the note. And this note is not included on the plan I submitted a week ago. I just added this today, and I added these stepping stones and the removal of that deck only today. So I know it hasn't been properly filed with you a week ahead of time, but this is to show the intent. And I did email this to the office, to the commission office earlier today around 4 o'clock. Anyway, I'll take this down now. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Jen?
Well, yes, Mr. Chairman. So we haven't had a chance to vet Tom's new plan. But we would recommend and are recommending that everything that can be removed that wasn't permitted should be removed. The egress, I mean, Mark made it very specific that no patio should be on there. So Tom, you addressed the existing patio before. Can you address it again?
Yeah, I think there's confusion about the patios. There was the large patio, which was something like 17 by 40. That's one, and that was specifically not in the RDA. But then there have been talk. I don't know if it was in 2005. I think it was maybe in 2005. It was called out as a 10 by 10 by, it's smaller, 10 by 12, 10 by 13 patio, which I think is the one that's in that southeast corner. And I would, there was a picture I had, I can probably bring it up if you want me to find it. There's a picture I had, and I sent it in to Alyssa after her first staff report. I could probably open that somewhere. There was a picture of that patio, and even before this work in 2005 was done, it was not a square 10 by 13. 10 by 13 is, or whatever it is, I can scale it on the plan, was the dimension of that little nook in the wall in the house.
Yeah, so the patio looks like it's a little bigger. So you did add a plan from 2005 with your supplemental packet, which was helpful, Tom. Thank you.
Well, there was that plan, and I can't remember how that plan showed it. It might have just been squared up, but a photo that shows it, it's an irregularly shaped, somewhat larger than the dimensions of that corner of the house. But I can't say, and I can't say exactly how big it was at that time. And it does appear to have been, the stones lifted, reset, rebuilt, and it's possible it got somewhat larger at that time too. I really can't say, but there is a photo that from that time before the beginning of that work, which shows that patio.
I understand that, but I'm also holding in my hand a stamped plan by a professional that says that's the dimensions of the patio. Mm-hmm. So the board's going to have to determine whether or not they want that portion of the patio mitigated for or removed. As far as the egress steps, I'll give you the egress steps, just the egress steps, but the rest of it has to be removed. And again, I don't know what you've proposed. Well, you just showed me, but I haven't had time to look at your plan. I left the office a little early today, so I'm not prepared to talk about what you're proposing for stepping stones around that. If you are going to use the bearberry and the Christmas fern, how seasonally appropriate of you, Tom, that I'm sure we're going to want some sort of like little single rail fence in that area to keep it from becoming a lawn and being mowed down.
It's yes, I know. I mean, it's the lesser of two.
Ground cover, so I don't really have too much trouble putting a ground cover back in that area. And then, did you talk about your ramp and float again, Tom? Because that's why we're here originally, right? Is the ramp and the float.
That is why we're here. I mean, it's what's proposed. I don't recall that there were any specific questions about it. We have this, it leads off from the top of that retaining wall at the face at the seaward, the pondward edge of the lawn. And of course, the mitigation planting is mitigation planting is going to be on the top of the lawn, and restoration planting, top of the wall. Restoration planting at the downhill side of the wall. You can see in the profile of this, the a landing going out 4 feet, and then the stairs going down another landing to keep it, fairly high above grade before it gets down to the pond level. And that was so that it would be high enough so that some plants could, again, ferns or whatever could live under there, not be shaded out.
You gave me the information, Tom, but what's the square footage of the float?
You asked for that, I sent it to you. I think it was like something like 57 square feet.
Okay. If the board remembers, this was a 10A float issued by the harbor master's office that turned into an unpermitted dock on this property.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me? Because I'm getting a thing on my computer that says low system resources may affect my audio quality. I don't know quite. Maybe it's because I'm trying to look at an aerial photo at the same time.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good.
I would like somebody, Tom or Jen, if you could clarify when you're done commenting, what exactly are we looking at here?
We're looking
There's
at
so
dock.
much-
Yeah, there's a dock. So the original project was a dock. So the original project is a dock, and then there's a lot of cleanup we have to do on this property because of some outstanding work that was done without any permits, and that's what Tom's trying to get permitted now, is some of the outstanding work that was done by mitigating for it now. So the original project was the dock. Tom is focusing on all the little egresses and extra decks and everything, because all of that stuff was built without any sort of conservation approval, which I think is what kind of got both the staff and some of the commissioners a little irritated last time. Was there's all this unpermitted work has been done on this property over the years, and now we're trying to legitimize and permit an unpermitted dock out there. So we're just trying to clean this up, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I don't think it's irritation. I think it's confusion because there's just so much going on. So, I mean, I commend them for trying to clear it all up, but the clarification almost makes it worse.
If I might, I could say actually, Jen, when I was contacted, the original project was to clean up all this back stuff because he wants to do some work on the house. And I was on the site talking with Mr. Ogilvy, and there were all these questions about the path and other things on the bank. And one of the comments from Mark Kasperzak was to take out the wooden steps or the slate steps or other things like that. And I said, well, why don't you put real steps down there and make it into a dock? So actually it's the dock. The dock was an afterthought, but the dock is maybe the biggest part of the project now. And that is so that there'll be no more path going down the hill. I mean, any of those little, there's like a timber or railroad tie, whatever you want to call it, steps going down that bank and a handrail, and that will be removed. And all of that area revegetated and then put in these above ground, raised steps instead.
Yeah, but wasn't it originally issued as a 10A float, so it never should have been attached to the bank?
Oh, the float, yeah, the float was out, and that was one of the comments in the staff report that the anchors for that float were pulled up on the shore and they have to be removed. Yes, it was originally that was a 10A float, and so I mean they walked down some steps on the bank to get to it, and it was like a 2x8 connecting the float to the shore. But yes, that.
Okay. Anyway, I think, Mr. Chairman, we're going to need a continuance anyway, because we haven't seen Tom's new plan and haven't had a chance to evaluate it.
Okay. But are we clear on all the information we need?
Yeah, we just need to look at Tom's plan and see if we can recommend what he's proposing.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear that what we're proposing is to remove remove that deck and everything that's unnecessary, keep the two egress, but also, of course, want to keep the, we call it a rinse station or a shower. But the deck that runs alongside of it will be removed.
Okay.
And I think that
All right.
shower is further from the resource area than the closest point on the house. So that perhaps could be permitted today also.
Okay. I want to poll commissioner comments before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Betsy?
I have no comments. I have to wait until see that what's going to finally be proposed and what staff's comments are on that.
Okay. Courtney? You're on mute. Courtney, you're on mute.
My comments mirrors those of Betsy.
Okay. Kevin?
I'm too confused to comment.
Pat?
I wonder if it's possible for Tom to prepare some plans that show what was permitted back in 2005 or 6, whenever this was permitted, what exists in a different color, showing where we're extending, because I was completely confused as you were going around the back of it. And what you're proposing, a third color, I don't know, maybe you need 3 plans, but I'm just throwing that out there. It is very confusing. Lost sight of the dock when all this is going on too. Nothing else, Mr. Chair.
Peter?
I have similar thoughts. I think we need to know what was approved prior, what was expanded or built without approval, and what the client is finally requesting. And if we can get those 3 things done, I would be in a position to comment.
All right. Tom, are you clear on what we're looking for?
I'm clear that you want me to be more clear.
That's good. That's good, Tom.
That's good.
At least you want my plans to be more clear. Yes, what was approved, I think what was approved is probably shown on the, you approved the Falmouth engineering. I mean, that was a site plan of record, so that's probably what was approved. But I can put it on. I'll try to get a, revisit or at least have a picture of, the patio in question and things. More clear plan, what was approved, what was built, and what do we want now?
Exactly.
Probably obviously the bottom line, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Jen, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Is there anything in the public chat function? Please?
Nope.
When are we going to continue this until?
Tom, could you make a formal request, please?
Oh, yes. Could I please have this continued? I'll state that clearly.
Thank you.
Probably the earliest available is January 5th. How many weeks is
I'm looking
that?
at that right now, Tom. Hang on. Yeah, you can have January 5th.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to January 5th, 2022.
Heard, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until January 5th. Hopefully that'll be it.
Yeah.
Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until January 5th. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Paul F. and Annette C. Alphen, the Alphen Falmouth Realty Trust, 119 Childs River Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE, the existing single-family dwelling, and to construct a new single-family dwelling, to install mitigation plantings, and to upgrade to a new Title V septic system. And I believe
Chairman,
Mr. Alphen was looking to be included.
he was, I am looking for Crawford.
Jamie, everybody's on this one.
Thank you.
I'm bringing Mr. Alphen up.
I see Maury's back. Steve, we're looking for you if you can hear me.
Promoting Mr. Alphen up to a panelist. Tom, I'm going to move you back into attendees.
Isn't he on? Tom, aren't you on this?
I mean, yes, I should be.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, Tom. I'm just looking at the first plan. Okay.
Steve's back, thank you.
I'm doing a hat trick tonight.
Am I looking for someone from Crawford, Tom?
I didn't talk to them today. I thought Nick might be here, but I don't know.
I don't see Nick.
Okay, we're gonna start without him. Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm for the record, I'm Tom Bunker, representing Paul and Annette Alphen for 119 Childs River Road. In the latest staff report, at the request of the last hearing, there was I think mainly a request for the planting plan to change out some plants. And on the most recent staff report, there was still the request, the Carolina Rose, would prefer that it be changed out to something, but I'll pull up the planting plan. I can't really say much about it except read the revision note on it. But I can pull up my plan too, because I missed that I was requested to do one thing, and I made a change to my site plan just today again. But it's very minor, but I did put it on there. And let me put that up and share my screen. I'll go over that, and I'll put up the Crawford plan also and see what we can say about that. Okay. So I'll go over first the staff comment from today, actually from yesterday. The Crawford plan showed some stone features in the driveway on the walk. The walkway was already that same size. I've labeled it. I've added the lines here and some lines here. And there's some lines here, which are this apron to the driveway, I think is what I was requested to add. And they're not on the property, but they're within previously proposed pavement. And the walkway here, it's the same walkway that Crawford has on their plan. In here did not increase the coverage. The stone, see the stone granite sticks into the paved driveway. This is already paved driveway. Only place right here, this granite apron to the garage, and it continues across and extends outside of the proposed driveway. That added 5 square feet of coverage. And so in a zone A, that's 15 square feet of mitigation planting. The original mitigation was 70 square feet. I've added 15, so the total is 85 square feet. And I have increased this area here. One feature of the plan that Crawford did was that all of the shrubs are native. And so by extending what is termed mitigation planting does not actually change the planting plan. If you hold on for a second now, I'll get the Crawford plan. That's right there, yeah. So this is what they submitted a week ago. And so I emailed to them. I told them what I was doing, or actually I told Angela, not Nick, Angela Tanner. So this is the 70 square feet of mitigation. And what was the CP here is Comptonia peregrina, the sweet fern. And the RC is, don't say it's a cola.
Carolina Rose.
Rosa Carolina, yeah. So that's actually what you want in the staff report. That's what wanted to be, well, the Carolina Rose and the sweet fern mitigation, what you wanted to replace with bayberry and beach plum. And so that area there, 15 square feet more of this would be considered mitigation. And if it's all changed to beach plum bayberry, it'll be the same size, with just the species of plants could be changed to make that. I think that's a fairly simple request there. The other, the third part of, well, actually on the staff report is the first part about the floats. The license does not show any floats on the pier. And so for now, until we do some permitting, propose to put a float in, then the float will remain out of the water. So that's, I can show you here. This is this apron, the stone apron going across and extending beyond the pavement here. And it's a granite walkway here, and the granite, these two granite though are out in the street line, not on the property. And they also don't add to coverage. It's only this 5 square feet right here that increases the coverage. And so basically it will not add to the amount of planting, but if you want that, the species changed, I'm sure they can do that fairly quickly for you. I'll take this down, take any questions, and maybe take any questions. Maybe Paul has something to say.
Okay, Jen?
I have a couple of questions. Tom, what's the last revision date on your plan?
The one that I submitted to you, because I didn't understand the request about the apron. The last one I submitted was, well, let's see, did I even submit one a week ago? Or I think what I did a week ago, I think we just submitted Crawford's plan. I don't think we had a plan from last week, but what I have now, I just did today as I was rereading, as I was reading these comments from yesterday.
Okay. So I have another plan that you submitted at 4:30 this afternoon. So
Yes.
I can't look at your plan. I will say that Crawford's plan needs to be changed to reflect your plan. So if your plan says 85 square feet of mitigation, Crawford's plan needs to say that as well. And Crawford did make the changes, or at least I'd say 85 to 90% of the changes the commission asked for. What they didn't do is they didn't change out the species in the actual mitigation. And that we want to see bayberry and beach plum or whatever we said. I do not want to see more Carolina rose in that. We had the discussion with Nick the last time about how we wanted to put rose along the edges of that walkway area so that it wouldn't, and that's fine, but I don't want so much rose out there. Poor town of Falmouth being blanketed in Carolina rose. So Crawford's plan does need to be changed. It's kind of too bad they're not here tonight.
Mhm.
And what did you say about the float? The floats need to be removed.
They're not, I think they're not in the water now.
Yeah.
One's in the was Paul Alphen, one's in the water, and fine. We'll get the other one out, and unless we later on submit an NOI for so that we can keep it in there. But there's
No, Mr. Alphen, the float needs to come out. The float's not permitted. It needs to come out.
Got it. Capiche.
No,
Got
but-
it. Yes, understood. Yes.
And when and if it's permitted, you can put it back in, but not leaving one in.
Yeah.
So those are the changes that the staff wants to see on Crawford's plan and on the property.
All right. Mr. Newton, do you have anything to add?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right. So I'm going to ask commissioners if they have any comments they want to add to this. Just want to make sure that because we're doing a continuance, or we might be doing a continuance, that we don't have to keep rehashing things. So does anybody have anything they want to question or comment on? Maury?
I just had, I think Jen already touched on it, but it was supposed to be 3 gallon, 3 foot on center. Sweet fern along all the edges was supposed to be, removed so that it was more woody indigenous. And again, the reduction in the Carolina rose because it was in abundance. And I just want to make sure it reflects in the next landscape plan.
They did reduce it more in the restoration area, but still the mitigation part needs to be changed.
Yeah. And it was still a little wimpy on the coastal bank, and the sumac is to be saved, correct?
I believe that's what he said.
But the sweet fern, we never allow sweet fern to be the leading edge to restoration or mitigation.
No.
Thank you, that's all.
Okay. Peter?
This is a question for Jen. The float, I want to clarify that the float, although it's out of the water or could be out of the water, how far back should it be to be approved?
What do you mean how far back? It needs to be off the bank and out of the water.
So
Mr. Alphen, if
how
you-
far back?
On the driveway or out off the property. I mean, that whole bank is vegetated, so we don't want it sitting on the bank.
Okay, just to clarify. Thank you.
And Mr. Alphen, you said one was out and one is in
Right, we took one out in 2020.
2020, but one still remains in.
That is correct.
Okay. And again, that one will need to be removed immediately. And then when you permit it, it can go back in.
All right. Anybody else have anything? All right, Tom, do you have a request for us? Actually, don't answer that yet. Jen, I'm sorry. Any public chat comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Tom. Okay, now the
Right.
question's for real. Do you have a request for us?
For real, yeah. So I request a continuance to address some of these questions you have. I suppose till January 5th also, if there's room there. Is it something we do quickly? And I know if they could do the plan, get it to you tomorrow, could we be any room on the agenda for next week?
No, Tom.
Okay.
Sorry.
How about January 5th?
That would be great, Tom.
At the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue to January 5th.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until January 5th. Are there any last comments or questions?
Yeah, I just have a comment. Tom, tonight's hasn't been your best performance. But
Come on,
when we
let's not
see you
go
on
there.
when we see you on January 5th, could we have the final plan, your final plan and Crawford's final plan?
You mean at least a week in advance? Yes.
Well, no, could we have the plans a week in advance for us to see you on January 5th?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
One more comment, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Elephant, the board, mentioned at the last hearing that float was not permitted and should have been removed, and it's discouraging that it's still in the water. So please make some arrangements to have someone come and remove that prior to our next hearing.
All right, we're taking the vote. The motion and the second on the table is to continue this till January 5th. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks eye.
Pat? Pat, you're on mute.
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We've continued this hearing until January 5th. Thank you, Mr. Bunker. Thank you, Mr. Alvin.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Alyssa and George Sihos, 94 Emmons Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a dock on Sitter's Pond. Jen? I'm sorry, the quorum does not include Maury or Steve. Do I have that correct, Betsy?
Yeah, I would have given it the other way, but yes.
I know. Why do you think
I
I
know.
said it first?
I know that's why you're doing it.
Yeah. All right, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm attempting to promote Jeff Ryther up as a panelist. This is his project. Give me 1 second. I'm going to be sharing my screen for Jeff, Mr. Chairman. Jeff, I'm trying to promote you up as a panelist. You need to accept it. Still in attendees, Mr. Chairman. Hang on. Here it comes. Jeff?
Yeah.
There you are.
Okay, thanks to my wife. Thank you. There's a couple of buttons I didn't have ready. Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm Jeff Ryther with BSS Design representing the Sahojos family. And this evening, we want to talk about what was lacking last week in the filing. And it had to do with similar things that happened tonight on other projects on the same pond. So it seems like the dock is okay, but we had a few issues with plantings. Some of the areas planted 10 years ago for I guess it was for a garage addition. Those plants have passed away, or have moved on to better light, and we're proposing to replace them with similar plants that are in there now, which is basically bayberry and some others. I can give you an idea. There's an order of conditions that we'd like to refer to tonight about the size of the plants and the number of them and species. So that's on condition 5 from the last time around. So we're going to, refurbish those planting areas. There's 2 of them, one up to the north near the cemetery land, and one just down from that Jen's helping with right now. That one that Jen's pointing to there seems to be fine. It was all fully planted and everything survived there. It's the one on the opposite lot line that didn't make it. So it seemed like the staff was all set with it. The comment is staff has no comments at this time. That was from the revisions of 12:7. So without stretching this out, that's about it. I think we had a good dock, everything met the regulations, and we just had to replace some plantings and mitigate for the front deck or the front patio at the front door. And that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Jen, you can stop sharing, I think. All right, Jen, you're up.
Yep, no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. All right, we're gonna poll the commissioners. Betsy.
I have no questions either. Thanks.
All right, Courtney.
No questions.
Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Pat.
Jen, my notes say that you asked for the BVW data sheets for this. Have you received them?
Jeff submitted a determination by Mark Manganello from LEC that there was no BVW, that it's actually a bank of salt pond, but we do have a letter in the file from Mark Manganello clarifying the resource area delineation on this property.
Great, thanks. No questions. Thank you.
All right, Peter.
No questions.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, there is not, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jeff, thank you for clarifying all that.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Heard, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. There's no further comments or questions. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, thank you very much. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Jeff.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
All right. Next up is the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, 86 Water Street, Woods Hole, Mass. For permission to replace the existing Iceland Marine Facility at 86 Water Street in Woods Hole. The proposed work will involve A, the in-kind replacement of the existing pile supported dock, B, reconstruction and reconfiguration of the deteriorated bulkhead and small boat slips, C, installation of an autonomous vessel port, D, dredging along the facility's west berth, and E, site development, including demolition of the Iceland building and construction of a new waterfront building. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until December 15th.
December 15th?
Yeah, next week,
Next week.
December 15th.
Anybody?
Move to continue this hearing till December 15th.
Bird second.
All right, so the motion and second on the table is to continue this till next week, which is 12:15. Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury? Maury, you're on mute.
I'm not on that quorum.
I'm sorry. Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Not
I'm not
mine.
on it either.
I'm not on it?
No, you are. I'm sorry. Jump the gun. All right. Jen, can you remove Jeff?
I'm working on it. I thought he left. I just noticed him.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, it's a nice sweater, but you know.
I'm crying. Now he's frozen. I got it. I got him. Okay.
Thank you. All right, next up, request to amend an existing order of conditions. Before we begin, I'm going to remind everyone commenting is limited to 3 minutes. Let's stay on point. Let's stay per the Wetlands Protection Act, Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. And any comments are only accepted for what is being proposed tonight. First up, Woods Hole, Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Steamship Authority, also known as SSA, foot of Railroad Avenue, Woods Hole, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4151 to modify the design of the installation of a monopile dolphin and to install a sheet pile encased reinforced concrete structure. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Bill Cloutier up for the Steamship Authority. Bill, am I promoting Dino up as well?
That's correct. Thanks, Jennifer.
Okay, I just promoted engineer up as well. Anyone else, Bill?
No, I think that's good, but we lost Dino. Oh,
No, Dino's there.
oh, there he is. Okay, I'm sorry.
Jamie,
Yes, ma'am.
I have to read something.
Okay.
So I served as the appointed Falmouth member of the SSA board from 2015 to 2018. The conflict of interest law provides in section 23, known as standards of conduct, that a public employee must avoid conduct which creates the reasonable impression that they will act with bias or secure an unwanted privilege or benefit upon another party. I'm an appointed member of the Conservation Commission. I hereby state that I can act objectively and will not use my official position to secure an unwanted privilege or benefit upon the SSA.
Excellent. Thank you. Watch out, Pat. All right. Jen?
Yes. Ms. Cloutier is all set.
Sure.
All
Just
right.
a little history. We're wrapping up our marine contract with Jay Cashman this season here. And this is the last piece of the puzzle in the South Slip. Little history. We have this monopile. That's a key monopile protecting the float.
Excuse me,
and
Mr. Cloutier, if you're sharing, if you're attempting to share, you're not.
No, I'm not. Dino,
Okay.
my engineer will share. Like I say, this monopile, and you'll see in the drawing, is a key monopile protecting the float, the passenger float for passenger loading. And it's also on the side, the key side for the vessel's docking. So in a fall or in winter, we drove this monopile 24, and we were only able to get it down to minus 65 feet. In the springtime, we attempted to drive two 42-inch piles immediately behind it to add additional support to this pile. We were not successful doing that either. And at this point, we've attempted to design a steel strut system to connect the three piles. We determined that the piles are skewed so much that we cannot do it in steel with the tolerances that we need to get the support required. So what we're proposing here is to drive sheets and pour reinforced concrete mass in between the three piles to give us the support we need. At this point, I'll turn it over to Dino to explain the details of the engineering.
So as Bill explained, the monopile could only be driven to an elevation of minus 65. The design tip elevation for the monopile is minus 100. So we need to bolster it to provide additional support to resist the impact of the ferries and protect the float and the piers behind it and to guide the ferry into the slip. We were before this commission last winter, requesting an amended order of conditions to drive additional piles. We had difficulty driving the piles in spite of what our pre-probing program told us. We were able to advance much smaller piles much deeper, but when it came time to drive the support piles that were approved last winter, as Bill said, we couldn't get them near the monopile. We put them in where they went in with the intention of designing the strut and bracing system that Bill talked about. During the design process for that bracing system and following further discussions with the contractor, that solution just turned out to be untenable. Just the forces and stresses was too great and too much additional work to install. Tolerances were tough. In addition, all of the other structures were already constructed, making access. Following more meeting, call it brainstorming with Steamship Authority, GZA, and Cashman, we developed this solution and advanced the design to a point where we're confident this will solve the problem. What it does basically is encloses the volume between monopile 24 and the two new piles that were driven. So this will all be enclosed with steel sheet piling. Doesn't show in this particular view, but even this gap between the piles. And once it's enclosed, we will fill the gap with concrete, and that concrete will be encapsulated within the sheet piling. It'll be reinforced, and it'll come up to about elevation +5. That will allow the force coming into the fender and the monopile from the ferries to be transferred to these two piles. And that will allow us to allow monopile 24 to basically do its job and guide the ferry into the slip and to protect the structures behind it. So in elevation, monopile 24 goes up to about elevation 15. The two piles that were driven go up to about elevation 10. We're showing the top of the new structure at 10. We're actually able to lower that a little bit. But this first level of bracing is down around -4. So the water level, mean low water, is right about here. So there'll be 4 or 5 feet of the new structure sticking up above the water level. It'll all be behind and within the limits of the existing structures that have already been installed. and permitted, so we're not expanding in any way. We're putting new structure within the confines of existing structure. In terms of how much area or volume that this will take, well, the monopile occupies about 50 square feet of land under the ocean and about 1,400 cubic feet of volume below the water. The additional structure will occupy another 76 square feet of land under the ocean and occupy about 2,000 cubic feet of volume under the water. So while we're taking back a little more land, the net gain of land under the ocean for this project is still well over 11,300 square feet area that we gained by demolishing the existing wharf that the old terminal building used to be sitting on. And if there are any other questions, that's about all I've got. I can provide a lot more detail if people would want to hear more about the process, about the difficulties in coming up with a solution for this monopile.
Dino, why
A
don't you
moment,
stop
Dino, if
sharing?
you would stop sharing, please.
Sure.
All right, Jen?
Bill, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I think Dino summarized the problem in the engineering says very well.
Mr. Chairman, the staff doesn't have any comments.
All right. Dino, I have a couple questions for you, if you would. And if you already addressed them, I apologize. But monopile 24, you said went down to minus 65.
Correct.
How deep did the other two go?
The two new piles,
Yes.
they went down to minus 85.
How deep do you expect the sheet pile to go?
We'll drive the sheet pile down to about minus 50.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Newton, do you have anything to add?
I do not, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Maury?
No comments, thank you.
Pat?
No questions, thank you.
Peter?
I have a question. With the concrete process, are you going to pump out the water inside between the sheet piles, or are you going to pour the concrete into the seawater and have the water flow out? What's the process?
And the process is what's called the Tremie process. We won't pump out that cofferdam. We'll extend a pipe down to the bottom of the sheets, down an existing mud line, which is around minus 24. The pipe will have a plug in it, and then we'll start pumping concrete through the pipe and start filling it from the bottom up. And the reason you do that is with the Tremie, once you start the concrete flowing, you keep the bottom of that pipe inside of the fresh concrete so that you're always getting good concrete and you're not mixing it with seawater. All that mixes with seawater is the top surface of what you're putting in. That will displace the water that's within the sheets and push it out over the top. We will have debris boom, a silt boom, curtain all around the structure while we're doing this. And any turbidity. For the most part, it'll be clean water coming out, but once they get up near the surface of the sheeting, what will be coming out over the top will be sediment laden because it'll be mixed with some of the cement and concrete, but all that will be contained within the silt boom and the silt curtain.
No further questions.
Thank you. Steve?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Betsy?
So just to follow up with Jamie and Peter's questions, where is the bottom of the concrete going to be? How high a concrete pile is this?
The bottom of the concrete will be right around the existing mud line. which in that area is about -24, -27, excuse me. And it'll mix, we do have soft soils in that area, so it'll mix a little bit with the silt. But that'll all be contained within the sheets. That's one of the reasons we're driving the sheets down to -50, is because of that soft soil, to make sure nothing blows out the bottom when we add the concrete. So we'll have concrete structure within the sheets from -27 up to about elevation +5.
So what's below the mud line? Sand?
Mud?
Sand and silt. There's a layer, one of the borings to the north of this structure shows a layer of soft silt. The closest boring to the south shows nothing but sand. So we've designed for the worst condition, assuming
Okay.
there's silt.
Okay, thank you.
One question, Dina, when at the end, when all the concrete laden seawater is contained in that silt boom, then what do you do? Dina, are you frozen?
Oh, I guess, are you asking, do we try to capture
Yeah, like how do
over
you
the top? No, it pretty much settles out.
fill out? Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Courtney?
No questions.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Second, Mr. Chairman. I don't see anything in the public chat and I don't see anyone's hand raised.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
No, hold on. I'm sorry. I skipped Kevin O'Brien. Don't take it personal.
I'm just trying to recall doing something similar and yeah, okay. I'm all right.
You sure?
I get it. No,
No, you're right.
it was a few years ago, but yeah.
All right. All right. So recognizing there is nothing in the public chat function, all commissioners have commented. If there's nothing further, I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. Again, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's no further comments or questions, I'm taking the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Happy holidays. And Jen, this is the last amendment, I promise.
I was going to ask you that,
I don't
Bill.
believe you, Bill.
I
don't
know.
believe you.
I promise. I don't have it in me to come back. Thank you. Happy
Thank you.
holidays,
Too
everybody.
hard on you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
All right, next up, Brewer Crane Family Trust, 26 Juniper Point, Woods Hole, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4403 for after the fact increase of impervious surfaces to install additional mitigation plantings and to regrade and install a drainage system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Newton, this one has been withdrawn, correct?
That is correct.
No actions needed, Mr. Chairman. They withdrew the application.
All right. All right. Next up, Seascape Association, Inc., 0 Waterside Drive, A Beach, A in quotes, North Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of condition for Mass DEP number 25-4279 to install sand and restore an existing boardwalk washed out by a recent storm. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Tim Gallagher up of the Seascape Association. They put the request in and he will be presenting the association's project.
All right.
I have my screen ready to share if he needs me to, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gallagher, you need to unmute yourself and turn on your camera.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for listening to us. How do I share my screen here, Jen?
If you'd like me to share my screen for you, sir, I'd be happy to do that.
Yes, because I wanted to show two things. One is the slideshow that I sent in that actually shows the situation, and then the map.
Okay, I have the plan. I got to find the slideshow. When did you send that in, sir?
All at the same time.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Chairman, let me just, what did I just do? Why don't you start, Mr. Gallagher? I'm going to share the screen with the plan, and I'm going to attempt to find that slideshow. Does everybody see the plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Gallagher, you start. Yes. I'm going to, oh, wait, I can't do this at the same time.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Seascape Association, I'm the past president and I'm the chairman of the beach committee. And we have an existing permit that allows us to maintain a boardwalk on a beach and replace it, fix it, but exactly the way it was. And what we had happen with when Ida came through was that we had an overflow of water that went down the boardwalk and washed away the front of the boardwalk, two sections of the boardwalk where it met the beach. The tide has brought back the sand actually in the beach area, but as you can see, you'll see in the slides show, could you go down a little bit, Jennifer, on this picture? The area that got washed away underneath the boardwalk, the tide never gets there. And what we're requesting is if we can rebuild the boardwalk by putting 10.5 cubic yards of sand, or what it's going to take to put in, to get the boardwalk back to its original positions and put the benches back in the positions that they were originally in our current plan. And so we had them calculate that it needs at least 10.5 cubic yards of sand at the end of the boardwalk to replace the boardwalk in its original position. And so we're requesting the ability to bring sand in and put it back to its original conditions. So I can talk about this map if you want, but basically the area that got washed away is shown in the upper left-hand corner of the picture. And the two benches that got moved because of the lack of sand, we moved out of the way so that when we put the sand back in place, the benches will go back into the original positions. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I found the slideshow, so I can bring that up as well. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a minute.
Okay.
Uh-oh. I just lost my slideshow. I'm working on it, Jamie.
No, thank you very much.
I'm working off of two screens, that's why. Hang on, give me 1 second.
While you're doing that, one of the things that I wanted to point out was that in the course of the last 2 or 3 years, the dunes on either side of our boardwalk have been building up as the sand has been growing in them. And part of the problem we have is that we have a natural funnel now going down where the boardwalk is. And part of that problem is that the property next to us, in Christine Donovan's property, they removed plantings based with permission, and now the wind is blowing through the site and blowing sand up on either side of the boardwalk. So this is the existing, thank you very much. This is the existing boardwalk as of May this year. And you can see that the picture on the left is from the parking lot. The picture on the right is down by where it hits onto the beach. And this boardwalk has been in place for 10, 15 years. We actually did some work on it this year and made it much better. But you can see that the dunes on either side of the boardwalk are building up and causing this to be a funnel. That's why we had part of this problem. The other reason why we had a problem here is that the rain coming down Waterside Drive actually overwhelmed the drain system in the road and came down on the beach and washed this away. So if you look at it, the picture on the left is facing the beach. These are the two sections that we had to take up. And here is the erosion that happened, as well as the movement of the two benches. You can go to the next slide, please. Post Ida, we were able to just rake it back into place. But then when we had the second storm, you can see that down here in the lower right-hand corner, the ocean was bringing back some of the sand, but not bringing it all the way back up to where the boardwalk was. So go to the next slide, please. You can see that after the second week of the storm, we wound up with this big runoff. The left side is facing the ocean, that's Buzzards Bay, and this is facing the boardwalk where the two sections were undermined and washed away. So what we're looking to do is to recover this, fill it in with the 10 plus cubic yards of sand and reconnect the boardwalk to the way it was. And there's a picture of it. You can see that down here on the lower right-hand corner, the ocean is actually beginning to fill back in up to the mean high water mark, but it'll never get up here where the boardwalk is. Okay. So we're requesting that we can, and I just brought these two pictures in for you, Jennifer, the last two pictures. We lost 2 mitigation trees that we had originally had in our permit because of severe wind damage previous winter, and we replaced the 2 dead trees with these. And the third mitigation tree is doing well on the other side. Okay.
Thank you.
So we're requesting the ability to bring sand in. Now, we cannot get any mechanical equipment down to the beach. We're not going to drive anything over the boardwalk. We're not going to drive anything over the grass or the dunes. We're going to put sand in the parking lot and we're going to use wheelbarrows to bring it down to the beach and then replace the 2 sections of the boardwalk. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Jen?
Kevin, you want to take this one? Kevin Newton, since you reviewed it?
Sure. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I worked with Mr. Gallagher to start the permitting process with this. He's been in touch with us the whole time. So he already answered one of my questions, which was how he's going to access bringing the sand in there. I'm glad to hear that it's going to be done by hand with wheelbarrows. I think that's great. I just had one other question about the sand itself. Where are you sourcing the sand from? Is the grain size going to be similar to what's already there?
The grain size is going to be similar to the sand that's there, but it will be the sand that's under the surface that we're concerned about. If you notice in the pictures, there was gravel underneath the boardwalk, and it has coarser sand down there with it. So we're going to put that level of sand to replace the 10 cubic yards that are missing. What was the other part of the question?
No, you answered it. With this, it's not a ton of sand that you're bringing in. It's not like you're conducting beach nourishment. So I don't think it's hugely important that it's exactly compatible, but it was something worth mentioning.
One of the things that's going to happen, Kevin, over time, though, is as the dunes keep building up and the sand that actually winds up flying into our property here is very, very, very fine on the top level. This beach has very fine white sand on it, which is nice. One of the things that we would like to do, though, is that we'd like to have this amendment to our permit not just be a one-time event, because should this happen again, I would prefer not to have to go through this process again. So if we could get this as an amendment to maintaining existing boardwalks, including replenishment of sand if this happens again, I think that would go a long way to helping us out.
Jen, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's kind of tough, Mr. Gallagher, because we never know what kind of storm event, what level of damage is going to be done. This is fairly minor storm damage in staff's opinion. So this is a very easy amendment. But if we say, yes, you can repair storm damage and something, more catastrophic happens to that beach, that's kind of an open-ended permission, and without us knowing what needs to be done, how much sand needs to be brought in, what the damage was, as the administrator, I would feel uncomfortable having something a little open-ended like that, but the commission can decide what they'd like to do.
Well, if we limited it to as part of maintaining the boardwalk, that's what I'm talking about, and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you.
Not a problem. It's not that I want to see you go through this process again, Mr. Gallagher. It's just,
Yep.
All right, commissioner comments. Steve, we're going to start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought that was a well-presented plan. I particularly agree with Kevin about the wheelbarrows. So I think this will be helpful for them to maintain this. I don't know about the long-term thing. I'd like to hear others comment on that.
Fair enough. Peter?
The boardwalks themselves, did they float out to the ocean or they stayed on the sand?
They stayed on actually the gravel underneath the stand where the sand was. We actually had these sections of boardwalk are screwed together end to end so that they actually can't move. The whole unit would have to have moved and it's just too heavy. So the sand eroded underneath it and they just fell down. So we unscrewed them and that's why we pushed them up on the side to make them safer until we fix it.
Thank you. No further questions.
Pat?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Maury?
The only question I had, I thought it was a very well prepared plan. Is there any way to prevent so much of the runoff from Westwood or whatever section of road that's coming down there eroding it?
That's a very good question. And the answer is kind of two-part. One is that we have to maintain that we own the roads to begin with. And so we have septic catch basins in the roads that we maintain, and we need to make sure they stay cleaned out. These guys kind of get overwhelmed. The second part about it is that the parking lot, if you look in the upper right-hand picture of the whole site plan, the parking lot is adjacent to Waterside Drive. And if you look at that stripe on it, that stripe is a small berm that is supposed to be directing the water away from the boardwalk. And what has happened is that because of all the heavy rain and everything, the edge, the water side, the facing the water edge of the parking lot built up with debris and actually formed the berm that pushed it back down to the water to the
Right. So
boardwalk.
you're doing your best you can. It's just
Yes.
that was a sort of a
Well, also what we're planning on doing is cleaning out that buildup of organic material that at the back of the parking lot, so the water will then go into the lot. That's all wooded, not wooded, but it's all grown.
vegetated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Courtney?
I know you want to not have to come back every time, but I agree with Jen. It's, we don't know what the nature of the beast is going to be. And so it has to be pretty much a case by case solution. The only thing I could suggest to you is that you look at some other possible engineering solution that would allow you to not have to worry about it if the sand eroded underneath that boardwalk. I'm not sure what that solution is, but that might be something to look at long term.
I think you're right. I've been on the board at Seascape and chairman of the beach committee for 15 years. And this is the first time we've had this kind of erosion under the boardwalk that I can remember. And I do think it's a combination also of the fact that the dunes are building up and it's caused the funnel. So that the boardwalk at one point was level with all the ground and now it's below it, particularly down at the beach end. So we're concerned about that. But that's good news for the Conservation Commission because the dunes are building up. So
We'll take it. Courtney, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Betsy?
Yeah, so I agree with Maury. I think your problem in these storms was that there was a lot of rain in a short amount of time. And the damage that you had wasn't, I mean, there was damage for the beach in that the beach got washed out, but that sand came back in. But your problem underneath there was runoff from the land.
yes,
And so at some point, you'll want to do something with that. The next time you're going to do a major project, you might consider reconstructing the drainage in your parking area. Like Maury said, if you can direct the flow into a vegetated area that can absorb it, as opposed to, it seems now when you have that buildup, it's all funneling right down your boardwalk.
all right, yes. And that's why that berm across the parking lot was first put in probably 20 years ago. But it wasn't producing the effect because it couldn't get into the vegetated area. That's
Yeah.
half of what we're gonna have to do to fix it.
Yeah, unfortunately, as you know, we seem to be running into a cycle of these intense rain events. So this may be something you'll want to address sooner rather than later, but I guess you just have to wait and see.
Thank you.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
No public chat and no hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird, second.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there are no further comments or questions. All right, I'm taking the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury? Maury?
I'm sorry, Harlow Hawks eye.
Pat?
RSI.
I just walked, see who's taking a drink, and that's who I call. Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you and happy holidays, everybody. Appreciate your help, Kevin.
Not a
Thank
problem.
Happy holidays.
You're welcome. Take care.
Next up, continued hearings under an enforcement order. First one, Guy Foreman and Roger Foreman, trustees, 113 Bywater Court, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted construction of a patio and a second-story deck. Ben?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Nate Garskarian up from Holmes McGrath and Bob Aments. Does Bob want to be promoted up, Nate?
Yes, please.
Okay. And Bob Ament from Ament Clower Law Firm, who represents the resident.
All right. Nate, are you beginning?
I believe Bob is going to start.
All right. Mr. Ament, you're up, sir.
Thanks very much. So Nathan and I represent the property owner, Guy Foreman, who's a trustee, whose contractors made a mistake and installed a patio on existing lawn, which should have been permitted first by the Conservation Commission. That work didn't require any other permits, but they also extended a second floor deck, mostly over an existing first floor deck. The deck that increased the footprint of the house is approximately 100 square feet. 9 square feet, a very small portion of which extends closer to the to the river than the first floor deck. So the second floor deck should also have been approved by Conservation Commission, and it needed a building permit. And the Conservation Commission would not have approved the second floor deck getting any closer to the resource area than the first floor deck, which is predates 1979. When we found out about this, we informed both the building department and the building department informed us of it. We informed Conservation Commission of it. We are in the process of the permitting work needed to get a building permit to take away the 9 square feet of that deck that's needed to not be in violation of what the Conservation Commission can approve. We have filed for a special permit with the Zoning Board of Appeals under the recodified zoning bylaw. I'm not sure a special permit is required. We're working that out with the building department. And so we've submitted plans to cut back the deck, the second floor deck, and to remove most of the patio, which would be restored as the lawn that was there. No bushes or other native materials were removed in the process. It was all over ornamentals, which actually are still there because it's a second floor deck, or grass lawn was affected. The proposed restoration or correction is very well described in the memo that Alyssa Bergeron distributed to the commission. The photographs that she attached also show you what's happened, and that's pretty much it. I found out today that as the staff recommendation reads, the patio can be removed, the portion to be removed can be removed within the next 30 days. Because of the time of year, the plantings would be done, mitigation planting would be done in the spring. The staff recommendation is April 30 to have it done by. The intention to cut back the deck, and that involves relocating one post. That would be done as soon as possible, certainly within 30 days after a building permit can be issued for it. But the work with the Zoning Board of Appeals doesn't allow us to get a building permit just yet. So, if there are any questions, be happy to answer it. I've really appreciated the cooperation of the staff from the moment we got involved and identified a Conservation Commission problem and met on site, and its recommendation is very acceptable to our client.
Excellent. Jen?
Nate, do you want to bring up the plan for the commission?
Yeah, sure. All right.
And if the commission wants, I have the near map open so I can show you a before and after.
Yeah, sure thing. All right, I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
All right.
Share your screen first, Nate, and then I can show them.
Did I get the right screen? I can never tell.
Yes.
Okay.
Looks good.
Okay.
So do you want to just show the portion of the patio that's going to be removed?
Yep, sure. So the 9 square feet, I believe it was, that Mr. Mann was referring to is right in here. And so that's why we've got the dual 31-foot lines showing that this now matches what would previously have been approved distance-wise from the top of this riprap here.
And then the portion of the paver patio to be removed.
Yep, it's a section within the A zone. Right here. And then these mitigation plantings are being put close to the resource. We are relocating the ornamental shrubs in front to be placed in front of the mitigation plantings.
A portion of the patio is going to be removed and a portion is going to remain, which is going to require that mitigation planting, or they'd like a portion of it to remain.
Well, a good bit of that patio to remain actually pre-existed. It's a rather small portion of new pavers that will that are part of the 150 square feet of total additional footprint, that is total impervious area. So that includes the portion of the second floor deck that is not over the first floor deck that was pre-existing, and you can see a dashed line that shows that. So those two areas, the additional footprint of deck and the additional patio is 150 square feet, so a 3-to-1 mitigation, that'd be 450 square feet. The plan shows 460 square feet of mitigation planting, which would be located closest to the resource area. That involves moving existing plantings and putting it on the landward side of the required mitigation planting.
Can you stop sharing, Nate?
Yep.
Thank you. And just to give the board, I'm going to share my screen real quick. That is the site right there. April 14th of 2020. That's October 2nd. So most of this patio is going away. I think a little bit is going to stay, and the remaining part of the deck over, which is right there, which doesn't exist, which is taking it's right there. But it's not exceeding that 31 feet from where that deck was. And then these existing there was existing ornamentals there, right there. These are going to be replanted in front of the mitigation. So the applicant was very responsive. I believe it was a complaint to the building department, and then we were contacted either by building or attorney I met, CC'd us when he responded to the building department's complaint. We met out there, reviewed the site, and they had a restoration plan, ready to go. So the property owner has been very responsive to the town's concerns about what happened on this site. So we would recommend issuing an enforcement order, having the patio removed as soon as the zoning issue is resolved. Bob, how long do you think that's going to take?
Well, the patio, which is actually most of the work being removed, we don't need to wait for a building permit for that. That can be done, as I said, Mr. Foreman checked with his contractor. They'll do that within 30 days of the issuance of your order. The Zoning Board of Appeals has scheduled a hearing for, I believe, the second week in January. That process to actually get a decision voted and then issued, an appeal period to go by, that can be 2 months or more. So I would estimate that the work on the deck, which remember it's the removal of 9 square feet of structure, that probably can be done at the same time by April 30, which was the date specified for the planting. I doubt very much we'll run into a problem of being able to do it by then. If we do, it won't be very much longer, and we'll let staff know.
Sounds good to me. So we would again recommend the enforcement order, outlining all the issues, outlining the remediation plan, patio to be removed within 30 days, portion of the deck that encroaches close to the resource area and the plantings no later than April 30th. And then if something happens, we are always available to work with a property owner to adjust a timeline if necessary. Anything else that Kevin Newton, would you like to add?
No, I think you summed it up.
All right. Maury,
I think you have a good plan going. It looked like a lot of lot coverage there, but I'm glad they're removing the patio.
all right. Anybody have anything they want to add?
No, thank you.
Steve? Okay,
Nothing.
all right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll put a motion to issue an enforcement order with all the details that Jen just gave us. And thanks for everybody for working together for resolving this.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to issue an enforcement order. If there's nothing else. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Fellow Hawks eye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an enforcement order. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Mr. Ament.
Thank you.
Next up, Kevin Clower, the second trustee, 18 Willis Lane Nominee Trust, 18 Willis Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of mitigation and restoration plantings associated with Mass DEP number 25-4099. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant, the property owner is requesting a continuance until January 19th. We're still working towards getting a finalized plan completed for the commission.
Is this the one that Alyssa was working on?
Yes.
Okay.
We've had 2 rounds of looking at plans and planting plans with the applicants, representatives, and they are looking to do more revisions based on the staff's comments.
It's continued until,
January 19th.
okay.
Hang on, let me see if that's an actual date. I think it is.
Well, it's a date, but it might not be a date. We have a meeting.
It's a Wednesday, the 19th.
So I'll make that motion.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to continue this enforcement hearing until January 19th. We don't need any comments. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
All Hawks eye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this enforcement hearing until January 19th. Next up, Pizzuti Family Inc., 279 Wild Harbor Road, North Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted construction of a structure within conservation jurisdiction. Jen?
This one was continued until next week, December 15th.
We didn't vote on this yet.
No, they're
Yeah.
requesting. Yeah.
They're requesting.
So I'll make a motion to to support that request.
And I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this enforcement hearing until 12:15. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
Brian, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this enforcement hearing until December 15th. Next up, vote orders of conditions. First up, Greg Jones, 230 Ecopesket Road, East Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was for the garage. And then they had to remove, it was for the garage, cabana, and pool. Redoing the septic system, but that, most of that work is outside of your jurisdiction. The work that was in your jurisdiction is removing a portion of an existing patio that extended beyond the present primary structure, and to do some restoration plantings to comply with an old order and the old mitigation plantings. So remove patio, do some restoration plantings that were required mitigation plantings for the project, and permit a small portion of the proposed patio within our jurisdiction.
All right. Anybody have anything special they'd like to see in there? Peter?
We're gonna add a tree. Sorry, we're gonna add a tree. We're going to make sure they plant prior to construction, or we recommend that you make them plant the mitigation and remove the patio prior to the construction of the garage and the cabana. One more thing. And we need to get the square. But Mike's going to get us the square footage, or did get us the square footage, and then we're going to calculate the number of plants based on that and what's already there.
Okay.
Okay.
Peter?
We have discussed 2 trees, originally 1 tree, but 2 trees.
You're right, Peter, add 2 trees.
And also, because they didn't follow through last time, we are going to monitor the program.
Yes. Yes, we are.
That's it.
I'm going to say even remove the patio before the staff signed off on the building permit.
Right. All right, anything else? Pat?
There was also discussion about requiring removal of an outhaul pipe that's located in the marsh.
Actually, that was a different project. I did mention that, but that was a different project.
Okay. Never mind.
Just in case.
All right. Anything else? All right, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. If there's nothing further. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, I.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
RSI.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
And I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, Town of Falmouth, 0 West Ave, map 04A 29, parcel 0000673A, North Falmouth, Mass.
This is the floating dock system along the bulkhead at Wild Harbor, as well as the little landing. I think it's really important to make a finding that, this is a public benefit to the town and the town residents because of the, what's the word I'm looking for?
Tidal range.
Thank
There.
you. Range, the tidal range in that area. Getting, there are people that try to load and unload on that bulkhead, and it just makes for a dangerous situation. Another finding we can make is public benefit, danger, is that it is transient. It's for loading and unloading only. It is not for, any transient docking. It's not for any overnight docking. It's loading and unloading only. Greg Fraser says, 15, 20 minutes on the dock and you're out. We can't police that, but, there shouldn't be any overnight docking on there.
All right, anybody have anything they want to put in there? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Word second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Word aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, William Trifero, 330 Edgewater Drive, East Falmouth, Mass.
You want the quorum, Jamie?
Please. I should have
My
done it.
quorum, Courtney,
Yeah.
Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat. So Maury and Steve aren't on it.
So this was for basically a couple of small additions on the property. And then when we went out to the property, there was some cleanup that needed to be done on there. So let's see, George did submit a corrected plan to us. There was a path that was cut through the salt marsh that they have addressed. They're gonna plant the edge of the path and narrow that path through the salt marsh. Some of the mitigation plantings they relocated to along the two ends of the top of that coastal bank, where it's all lawn, to address some of Betsy's concerns and some other concerns. They've added 4 additional trees to the plan to remediate for some vegetation that was lost during the installation of a septic over there. And I think the only outstanding issue the staff saw was we're still concerned with the size of that ramp. If you take a look at the photos we've sent you, we do really feel that it got a little wider. Their stance is that it's the same size that was just rebuilt. We're going to leave that up to the commission, but I think all the other issues kind of were addressed.
Right? Anybody? Nobody. All
I
right.
didn't think the ramp looked that much bigger. But
All right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Word second.
All right. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Word aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, Robert DeVasto, 218 Edgewater Drive, East Falmouth, Mass. Betsy, the
Yes.
quorum, please.
Courtney, Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat.
Yeah, not Maury and Steve.
Correct. Good, Jamie.
All right, Jen.
Again, another proposed small addition, and a proposed retaining wall. A lot of the mitigation plantings, they had addressed in the backyard, but when we went onto the site, the driveway was larger, so they remediated that by adding some additional plantings. Unfortunately, they could not fit any more in the backyard, so they picked out an area in the front yard within the 100-foot buffer to that salt marsh to put some additional plantings to address the increase in the size of the driveway. And the pipe, this was where the pipe was, Pat, and we're going to make a special condition that it be removed.
All right, anybody have anything else? All right, we'll take a motion.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, if there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. All right, next up, Falmouth Housing Corporation, 763 Main Street and number 24 Scranton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum is not Maury. Maury, you could have gone like half an hour ago. No, you couldn't. What else are you going to do on a Wednesday night?
I don't have many conditions for the housing project. All the storm, we do have a few. We do need them to be a few conditions like addressing the what am I saying? Sorry, give me a minute.
You wanted them to clean something else out.
Yeah, when they
clean
go
the
in
other
and
stuff out.
inspect the forebay, we want them to inspect the catch basins as well, because they hadn't had that written down in their rebuttal to, not their rebuttal, but their response to Beals and Thomas. So I think I did make that perfectly clear at the hearing that there'll be a few small conditions related to basically the operation and maintenance of the stormwater system.
That's all I remember. That.
All right. Anybody have anything else they think should be in there? All right, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
I missed when you two were appointed the designated motion and second people tonight.
Well, it's
Skip that
just
stuff.
that way everybody else can sleep.
Hey. All right, so we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy.
Just trying to move stuff along, Jamie. Aye.
I will like it. Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you, everyone. That is all we have. We have one more motion. How about if Maury gets to make it?
Wait a minute, one more thing. I'm going to send out winter schedule tomorrow. Basically, it's going to be 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 weeks on, 1 week off until about April-ish. And then I'll redo it for the spring and the summer like I usually do. I know, Peter, you were asking for it. So the next 3 weeks, I mean, January 5th, 12th, and 19th, we'll be meeting. And then that last week in January, we'll have off. So again, 3 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Carlo Hawks.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. There will be no more discussion about that. Betsy?
No more discussion? Gladfelter, aye.
Can always count on you. Courtney?
I have a question. Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. How did I get on this board of comedians? Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Night, everyone.